Listen up, Chicago. The ground is shifting beneath Hallis Hall, and I ain't just talking about the stadium blueprints. We're staring down the barrel of an offseason that could either define a dynasty or dismantle everything we have built. From the backfield economics being rewritten by Dallas to a shocking report about our best defender that has my blood boiling. And finally, a civil war brewing in the front office. You think you know what Ryan Poles is doing? Think again. Buckle up, because what I'm about to tell you changes everything for the Bears.
Let's look closely at the financials coming out of Dallas, because whether you like the Cowboys or not, their checkbook dictates the market. They just made a strategic move in free agency regarding their backfield that has sent shockwaves all the way to Lake Forest. This isn't just about Dallas. This sets the floor and the ceiling for what Ryan Poles can do with our running game. The market value for running backs has been volatile, depreciating 1 minute and spiking the next based on elite production. With this latest signing, the price tag for competence just got clearly defined. For the Bears, this is the blueprint. We have been analyzing how to bolster the ground attack to support our quarterback, and now we know the price of admission. Ryan Poles is a numbers guy. He looks at value. He looks at the Moneyball aspect of gridiron warfare. But here is where I get concerned. Here is where the math stops and the football begins. You cannot simply plug numbers into a spreadsheet and expect to run through the NFC North. The Bears' identity is physical. It is punishing. If this market shift scares the front office into going cheap on the backfield, we are in trouble. You look at the history of this franchise. It is built on the backs of runners who refuse to go down. We need a premier backfield, not a bargain bin discount because some team in Texas decided to set a weird market trend. This influences everything. It influences who we draft. It influences who we extend. It forces Poles to decide if he wants to follow the trend or set the standard. And let me tell you, following trends is how you stay mediocre. Setting standards is how you win championships. The scary part is that this financial calculus doesn't just stop at the running back position. It bleeds into every single negotiation currently happening in that building. It forces hard decisions. It forces the general manager to look at the roster and decide who is essential and who is expendable. When you start counting pennies at running back, you start looking for dollars elsewhere. We are sitting here hoping for explosive plays, but the front office is looking at a calculator. That disconnect is dangerous. It is the kind of thinking that leads to hesitation when aggression is required. And that brings me to a report that quite frankly makes absolutely no sense to me. It is a rumor that is starting to gain traction, and if it is true, it is not just a mistake, it is a catastrophe waiting to happen. We are talking about saving money, right? We are talking about cap management. Well, be careful what you wish for, because the name popping up as a potential cap casualty is going to make you scream at your radio.
Listen, the news cycle is moving faster than a 2-minute drill. You cannot afford to be the last one to know. Hit that subscribe button right now. Join the family and stay ahead of every single breaking story.
I am looking at this report, and I literally have to rub my eyes to make sure I am reading it correctly. There is analysis circulating that lists Jaylon Johnson as a potential candidate to be cut this offseason. Let me repeat that so it sinks in. Jaylon Johnson, a cut candidate. The logic, if you can even call it that, is purely financial. It is about clearing cap space. It is about flexibility. But let's be real for a second. This is the National Football League, not an accounting firm. You do not win games by having the tidiest balance sheet. You win by stopping the opposing quarterback. Jaylon Johnson is one of the premier cornerbacks in this game. He is a lockdown defender. He shuts down one side of the field. When you have a guy who can look a number one receiver in the eye and erase him from the game plan, you do not talk about cutting him. You talk about building a statue of him. The audacity to even suggest this as a viable option shows a fundamental misunderstanding of what makes a defense work. If you cut him, you create a black hole in the secondary that no amount of draft picks or mid-tier free agents can fill. You are stripping the defense of its swagger. You are telling the locker room that performance doesn't matter as much as the bottom line. It is disrespectful. It is negligent. It is the kind of move that sets a franchise back 5 years. We have seen this team struggle to find an identity, and when we finally have a cornerstone player, the conversation turns to getting rid of him. For what? To save money for who? It is absolute madness. The insider buzz suggests this is being explored as a nuclear option to reset the cap, but a nuclear option leaves nothing but ashes behind. You cannot preach about building a winning culture and then escort your best players out the door because the math got a little tight. It is a contradiction. It is hypocritical. We are talking about a homegrown talent who embodies everything we want this defense to be. Losing him would be a surrender. It would be an admission that we are not serious about contending right now. And speaking of hypocrisy and mismanagement, if you think this potential roster move is a sign of dysfunction, wait until you hear what is happening in the executive suites. The chaos isn't just on the field or in the GM's office. It is rotting from the head down. There is a storm brewing between the owner and the president that makes these roster decisions look like child's play.
We have arrived at the root of the problem. You can argue about running backs and you can scream about cornerbacks, but when the house is divided against itself, nothing else matters. Sources are telling me that George McCaskey is beyond frustrated. He is irate. The target of his anger is team president Kevin Warren. Why? Because the stadium project is being described internally as a complete fiasco. Kevin Warren was brought to Chicago with one primary directive. He was the closer. He was the guy who got the stadium built in Minnesota, and he was supposed to deliver a state-of-the-art palace for the Bears. Instead, we have stalled negotiations, political dead ends, and zero shovels in the ground. The report indicates that McCaskey views this failure as a direct indictment of Warren's leadership. While the team will keep its operational headquarters at Halas Hall, the future of the actual stadium is in total limbo. This is a crisis of confidence at the highest level. When the owner does not trust the president, the entire organization freezes. Decisions get second-guessed. Paranoia sets in. We were promised a new era. We were promised a world-class venue that would rival anything in sports. Now, we are looking at administrative gridlock. This isn't just about where the team plays on Sundays. It is about revenue. It is about the franchise's valuation. It is about the legacy of the McCaskey family. George feels let down. He feels that the promises made during the hiring process have not been kept. And let me tell you, when an owner feels deceived, heads usually roll. This friction creates a toxic environment that trickles down to the GM, the coaches, and eventually the players. You cannot expect Ryan Poles to build a championship roster when the men signing his checks are at each other's throats. The stadium was supposed to be the easy part for Warren. It was his expertise. Failing here brings his entire tenure into question. If they cannot figure out where to put the building, how can we trust them to build the team? This is a leadership vacuum that threatens to suck the life out of this franchise before the season even begins. The tension is palpable in the hallways of Halas Hall. You have an owner demanding results and a president who is running out of answers. This is not how you run a flagship franchise in the NFL. This is how you run a circus. And right now, the fans are the ones paying the price for the ticket.
This is a defining moment for the Chicago Bears. We have market forces squeezing the roster, we have rumors about cutting our best defender, and we have a civil war in the front office over a stadium that doesn't exist. This is not just an offseason, this is a survival test. If they cut Jaylon Johnson while the executives fight over blueprints, this franchise is lost. I need to hear from you right now. Who is to blame for this mess? Is it Kevin Warren for failing the stadium deal, or is it the McCaskeys for letting it get this bad? Drop your comments below. We are in this together, Chicago. Stay strong, stay loud, and as always, bear down.